Ladies and gentlemen, this interview is brought to you by Burned Up Coaching and Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self and the 21-Day Challenge. And if you're an entrepreneur or a high achiever and you're committed to achieving that next level of success in your life, your business, breaking through your BS, and succeeding in the next 21 days like you never have before, definitely send me a message. We'll get your accountability dialed in, have your habits dialed in, your morning and nighttime routines, set a clear, specific, measurable goal for your one-year goal, break it down into bite-sized steps, and just help you succeed at whatever you desire. So that's Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self and Burn Up Coaching and our 21-Day Challenge. If you are interested and committed in making that happen, send me a message, chris@beyourgps.com. Would love to hear from you and see if you're a good fit for the program. And then you can also send me a message on Facebook and say, hey, 21-Day Challenge, tell me more. And I will definitely get that info to you. Next up is the iTunes Review of the Week. Let's hear about that iTunes Review of the Week. It's by Shanti Yogini, and Shanti says, uplifting and inspiring. This podcast is true to its name. No matter what area of discussion we are interested in, it will help bring out our strengths and make us be our highest possible self in that specific area. I first listened to the episode Marketing with Heart versus Hype. Cindy and Chris rocked the show. Chris is natural at making the guests their highest possible self during the interview by asking the right questions. Time just flew by. Dear blessed and beloved Chris, keep rocking. Keep inspiring. The world needs more leaders like you. And Wahido. And we're going to have a lot of fun on this interview. By the way, if you want to give us feedback, go ahead and do that. Go to beyourgps.com/iTunes. You can go ahead and rate, review, and subscribe there. And keep up to date with Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self. And if you want to go on Facebook, search Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self. You can do that as well and give us feedback there. We appreciate all the feedback. We read it and integrate it. So thanks so much for giving us that feedback and letting us grow with you into our greatest possible self. Now, for the man of the hour, this dude is awesome. I loved our pre-interview call where we got to get to know each other and hear more about what we're creating, and he is up to some amazing things, empowering people with their mindset, with the spiritual undertone. I love it, like talking about choice and consciousness, and just so amazing. So I know this interview is going to be amazing. Make sure you stick around till the end, because I'm sure you're going to get some gold nuggets. Have a pen and paper ready to take notes, because Wahido is going to share the genius. So I'm going to read his introduction. Mr. Wahido Marata is a certified ICF life coach committed to helping entrepreneurs go beyond struggles, limiting belief systems, and boost their self-confidence, motivation, and self-awareness. His goal is to assist entrepreneurs to create a strong mindset that allows them to exponentially increase their social media presence, create a massive action plan, resources, and strategies to grow their businesses, and learn how to generate more leads and sales online. Learn how to make a bigger impact in the world with their work and increase revenue. Learn how to build a solid rock reputation and how to grow and monetize Instagram and other social media platforms. And he is here to share the wisdom with us today. Wahido, you ready to rock this?
Thank you. I'm ready.
Yes.
I have been ready. I was born ready, like they
That's
say.
right.
Yes.
That's right, man. Dude, we're going to rock it today. Super grateful to have you on, sharing your wisdom, your perspective from across the world. Where are you at right now again?
I'm in São Paulo, Brazil.
Brazil! Yes! I
I
love it.
Portuguese, a little bit.
I love it, man. It's so amazing. Thank you so much for being here and making the time out of your schedule to share with our audience how we too can become our greatest possible self and grow. So thank you, man.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
A pleasure.
You're welcome, man. Let's start diving into the theme of the day, which today is a universe of duality. So, Wahido, how has this concept of duality, a universe of duality, how has it impacted your life? How has it played a role in your life? What does that mean to you?
Well, of course, that's a very interesting question. And, I kind of prepared myself because I heard you asking that question before. But it's actually something that I've been listening to since the age of 17, when I started reading spiritual books from people like Paramahansa Yogananda or Osho, or like Deepak Chopra, and it's something that resides here on our reptilian brain, actually. Like the fight or flight mechanism that it's like triggered whenever you are in danger. And so I think it's very important to have this sense of duality, basically to create like this sort of good judgment in our minds. But it's something that we grow up with, right or wrong, what is supposed to be the conscious or unconscious way of doing things. I heard someone speaking about yin yang, and there is this kind of ladder, like the superior people, and comes a lot from the Hindu traditions. The Brahmins are the highest, and the untouchable are the lowest. And I lived in India. I've seen that, for 1 year. It's how it is. But what I find interesting is how you actually tackle that duality, and creating a daily practice to really make sure that you are not falling into judgments. For me, duality means judgment, and so in order for you to actually create this sense of non-judgment, non-attachment, where you actually see the perspective from a non-biased, perspective, means that you are not falling into a duality and not falling into a judgment. So that's what I think it's more the practical sense of duality, because we cannot live without it. Right. We always have to make a judgment on a daily basis. It's best not to judge the book by its cover. That's definitely what I live by. Yeah. But I think you need to create a certain type of judgment. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult to live in this kind of mundane, kind of physical realm of existence.
Yeah, I find that so interesting. Like the judgment of what do I choose? There's almost like a judgment of choosing, or what's next? What should I wear today? What should I eat? What is the healthiest for me? Or who should I partner up with in business? Who am I going to choose for my significant other? That takes a level of critical thinking, of judging, so to speak, which one is best. But then there's also the aspect of, well, I'm judging this person because they're not like me, or because they don't think like me, or because I think that they're doing it wrong, or I think I have input, or I want to fix them, or blah 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 blah. Right? So I think it's such an interesting universe of duality just within that concept.
Definitely, but the thing is, I tend to more and more use less of my rational mind, and things like emotional intelligence, empathy, even being patient, and really getting the right kind of assertive judgment out of the situation, based on intuition. Things that really, really make more sense for me than the rational mind that really tries to, in a rational way, say, this should be like that because of this and that. And many times, the BS that you spoke about, for me, it actually means belief systems.
Yep.
And so many times using our rational mind becomes, actually falling into limiting belief systems. So LBS, and means that, you are falling into repetitive patterns that you many times are not even conscious of. Wow. And basically they dictate your daily life and your daily moves. And if you don't have like someone that either is your partner or a family member, someone that you trust, or even like a mentor or a coach, like that keeps you accountable of your actions, then you are, in my opinion, a bit lost. Yeah. And that's a shame, really.
Yeah, it's so essential to be grounded in reality with our wherever we're thinking we're going, wherever our heart is going, wherever our spirit is going. It's important to be grounded in, like, how does this really sound, and how does it come off? How can I communicate this not only to myself but to others, so that it's effective in dealing with reality? Because we could live on Mars, so to speak, in our head and pretend like the world is Mars and act like it's Mars. And that would be the fastest way to disconnect out of reality with other people so that we can get along. And I think that's a big challenge with spiritual people, is they become so enlightened, so aware of whatever realities and dimensions are beyond what most people are operating in, that they disconnect themselves because they don't know how to communicate and come back to what is with the mass society, so to speak, which poses as a challenge to their general well-being and getting through life with success, with happiness, with fulfillment.
Definitely, and I believe that there needs to be a very very deep sense of balance.
Yeah.
And it's like I was reading or watching someone on TED Talk today speaking about being an introverted, and what she was saying is it's so important to be in nature, for instance, in order for you to really come back to that silent space. And so I believe that in one side you should really focus on spirituality and getting that kind of awareness that I believe comes a lot with emotional intelligence, and really really being able to listen, to listen to yourself, to listen to your mind, and really be able to discern it, and then bringing that to our kind of daily life so that we can actually communicate to people in the best way possible. And like you and I, like being a coach, for instance, I have trained myself so much to listen, to really be able to listen. And I believe that this is a bit of a quality of the feminine energy. Yeah. But more and more needs to be practiced. If we don't practice, it's like a muscle. If you don't practice this kind of listening, then you are basically not able to go deep into your own listening and go deep in the listening of especially the people around you, like your girlfriend or boyfriend, or if you're married, like wife or husband.
Yeah, 100%, 100% Wahido. And we have Jonathan out in the audience who said, "Hey, gentlemen." We have Yishu who gave a thumbs up. So welcome both of you. I see Laura's out there as well. So Halo, what's up? My girlfriend I know is either here or her energy is definitely supporting us 24/7. So it's awesome. She's amazing. So we kind of dove in deep, and I love how we did that. I love when it's like we're already like 10 minutes into the interview. It's like, oh my gosh, I want to introduce you as well, kind of to get people understanding about you. You mentioned emotional intelligence. I know that's a big focus of yours these days. So why don't you share a little bit more for people who don't know you yet, who are finding out about you, a little bit more about yourself, Wahido?
Sure. I was brought up in Portugal in a very sort of Catholic kind of special kind of energy. And by the age of 17, I really started reading books, which I mentioned, that really, really changed the way that I saw life and the way that I've seen my life with my family happen. And, I became a civil engineer. I, at the age of 21, became a tennis coach, by the Portuguese Federation of Tennis. And I just loved the game. I was really passionate. But then I became a civil engineer. I went to Madrid and I worked there for 1 year. But after 1 year, I basically couldn't find myself. I couldn't find myself in that reality. And so I had to change. And I came back to Portugal, and I wanted to change, but there was nothing really in the moment that I felt drawn to. And so I really put in practice one of my dreams, which was to go to India. And so I went there and I spent 1 year really focusing totally on a daily basis on really almost 24/7 with meditation, with breathing techniques, and also with Ayurvedic medicine and bit of yoga and also massage.
What difference did you see before you went to India and then after? What differences?
Well, before I have gone to several countries, mainly in Europe. But I also have visited, Manhattan and other places a bit further away. But I never had such an experience with so many people from around the world, because actually where I was really, really like sort of an ashram, and for those who don't know what an ashram is, it's like a spiritual school. And there was people from Japan, from Korea, from Israel, from America, Mexico, Argentina, Brazil. There was like I met in a year like people from all walks of life and from all different countries. And I really, really fulfilled one of my dreams. I actually have moments of deep bliss. I really felt like this happened. This is happening. And so the person that came back came really, really focused on what he wanted to do, but with a baggage of tools that they didn't exist so much in Portugal. But I wanted to go deeper. And so I moved to America, well, not permanently, but I went to America, to New Jersey and Palm Springs, and I did 2 courses with Tony Robbins. And I really got introduced with coaching and NLP. And I really came back with the focus that, this I found out what I wanted to do. And so I started practicing in coaching. I started giving a lot of workshops, a lot of group and individual sessions. And, many years later, I became ICF life coach. And, that also changed the game, because being a tennis player and then becoming a coach, really, kind of shows you the little molecules that go between the brain that plays tennis and the brain that coaches tennis players.
Oh, yeah.
And so, taking a course on coaching became, like a total different universe. I was able to structure my sessions. I was able to really, get really in touch with emotional intelligence, intuition, time management, and so on and so forth. And then I became kind of an expert. I don't know. I know why, but people started coining me as an expert on Instagram, because I started basically having clients from 10 to 50,000 followers, really asking me to help them increase their following and increase their ratings, their engagement ratings. And that's what I'm doing at the moment, being a life coach with clients in Australia, to America, to Mexico, and many countries in Portugal, and now, in Europe, including Portugal, Germany, Sweden, Austria, and now also in Brazil. And, I'm just super grateful about the game, and working with people like your girlfriend Petya and other people. I have so many mentors in America at the moment, like Lewis Howells, Jasmine Starr, Evan Carmichael, and also Gary Vaynerchuk, which I'm going to meet very soon on my birthday on the 27th of September in Poland.
Yeah,
I'm super excited.
Love
it's
it.
It's going to be amazing. Yeah,
dude, awesome.
So in a nutshell, that's where I went from to where I am now.
Dude, so beautiful. And I'm sure there's so much that came from being an athlete, coaching athletes, high performance, and then also getting into this world of social media and online and technology. What would you say? What did you discover in blending those two worlds of athleticism and three worlds: athleticism, coaching, and then social media? What did you notice?
Very interesting. There is one word that joins them all, or there is like a thread line in all of them, and basically it's attention. So the thing is, when you are an athlete, the attention is on yourself. It's like, what do you love to do? And also with coaching, it's like, in my practice, it's like, what do I love to do? But then in the social media is, where is the attention of the people that are wanting to know more about yourself or want to know more about whatever? So where is that attention? And, from what I've been learning with many kind of social media and digital marketing gurus is, you need to find where the attention is. And the attention of your audience, your audience avatar. You need to really be clear about that, and of course, you need to be clear about what you're offering. But that's what I feel like. Just the first thing that came into my mind. It's the attention. That's either what you do, what you love, in order to fulfill that kind of aspect of yourself, and then fulfilling the expectations or the needs of the people that get your attention, or vice versa.
Yeah, wow, that's incredible, and I think that's so powerful, because attention is everywhere. Like attention. Are you being attentive with your spiritual practice? Are you being present? When I think of attention, I think of present or presence. Or what kind of attention are people drawing? What kind of a presence, a social media presence, does someone have? And I think that attention and the aspect of energy flowing towards where attention is going is so powerful, right? And I love it, man. It's super cool.
Yeah, exactly. And like what I do and what I hear many of the media gurus say is, the energy goes where the energy flows. And so, it's not by chance that I'm speaking about emotional intelligence connected to listening, because if you don't listen where the attention of your audience is, you will never reach them. Right? And if you don't listen to where your why, your what is inside of you, if you don't listen to that aspect that fires you up, that fuels your every morning, that you wake up every morning and say, look, this is why I was born. This is why God put me in this place at this time, for me to wake up and say, look, world, just wait for me because I'm coming. You know, so that energy, you know, it's really for me what needs to be present on a daily basis. You know, it doesn't mean that we don't go in ups and downs, and you know, sometimes we feel more demotivated, and you know, perhaps one day we procrastinate a bit more than others. But you know, it's that kind of mindset that keeps you going on a daily basis.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So one of the things that we want to talk about today is like the mindset shift. You know, what is that shift? Have we already covered it with presence and attention, or is it something else that you think is important that we get to shift?
No, I believe that, you know, basically for me, mindset, and I resumed it in a word, in a sentence, sorry, that, you know, I posted on my videos, is basically that energy that doesn't let us be dragged down by emotions, thoughts, and feelings. And so every time that there is a feeling, an emotion connected to some kind of negativity or the biased negative of the brain, then you need to be aware enough to catch yourself and say, look, this is BS. This is belief systems. This is not me. And so that's, you know, mindset is an energy. It's so powerful and present, but you need to be aware of it. And the more you practice it, the more it becomes really, really powerful. And for instance, there is something that I usually tell my clients, which is the 5-second rule by Mel Robbins. You know, that she says that affects the brain in a, you know, it creates a chemistry in the brain in that moment that really changes the way that you feel. You know, like Tony Robbins says, you know, the state, you know, the emotional state is what basically can change your situation, your feeling, your focus. You know, and it actually says is the focus. You know, whatever you focus on becomes your reality. And so the mindset is exactly that. You know, it's when many times unconsciously we have, and that's the most difficult part, we have those negative thoughts and those negative emotions, and they basically put us in the focus of the negative or a place that doesn't serve us. That's when the mindset needs to come up. You know, that energy needs to come up and say, look, I know, I've been there. I know that space. Although it might be confusing, although the melatonin levels and the cortisol, you know, are totally unbalanced, you know, even then you need to be having a strong mindset so that you can actually address the situation. So that's something that I would include. And then the mindset shift really means that, you know, you create that reality on a daily basis. You practice, you know, PPP. It's the only way to actually make anything happen. You know, it's a muscle. It's like intuition. It's like emotional intelligence. If you don't practice it, you are totally sure that it will never happen, because it's a muscle. It doesn't evolve. It stagnates. Actually, it's worse than that. It doesn't stagnate. It doesn't go on to it atrophies. It atrophies. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
totally.
Man, that's so powerful. And you know, this brings to mind something. I'm working with a client right now. He's done a ton of personal development training, and he's like super powerful. You know, like successful business, all this good stuff. And I still find that he goes back to that like old thinking pattern and being really harsh and critical on himself, even though he's had tons of consciousness training, tons of, you know, he creates his own reality, he chooses his reality, all this training and development. And still, like, over time, without that reinforcement, without that practice, because he's been not as involved in those trainings, in those personal development trainings, and I've been coaching him consistently, and I notice, like, hey man, like I saw when you were coaching in this specific group, you were like on fire, and now it's like I hear the language, and I don't think you're as aware or awake to the language that you're using. And so just to remind him, like, hey, you are your biggest cheerleader, and you could spend all of your time self-criticizing, saying all the things that are wrong, because this dude is like so powerful. It's almost like he's creating obstacles for himself because he just isn't aware. He's not choosing to be aware. He's not choosing to be responsible responsible and like take charge of that. And so I just reminded him, like, dude, it's you who's choosing your reality. What you focus on expands. What are you focusing on? You want to keep explaining all the reasons why your spirituality isn't expanding, or do you want to invest your time and your energy into your victory story, into your success story, into your state of being a freaking champion, you know? And it's simply diverting that energy. Now, there's probably going to be beliefs that are deep down inside that are causing those, that we got to get uprooted over time. And I believe it starts with that, just changing the choice, just like start choosing a different path more frequently. So I'm sure you have experience getting to those deeply rooted beliefs. I'm curious what you think is the best way to approach those, or how to actually start uprooting those, or just deal with those.
You know, I can share something that Tony Robbins did in this Date with Destiny course that I took with him in Palm Springs. And it was like, you know, almost 13 years ago. But, you know, I've been practicing that. And it's actually one of the best ways to tackle any belief system and actually to change it permanently. And, you know, maybe you know, it's two tips actually that I would like to give. But one of them is really to write things down.
Yes.
You know? And it starts by, you know, first of all, one of the tips is, you know, to really have a coach, to really have someone that keeps you accountable, that really is able to, on your face, in a gentle way, in a loving way, say, look, this is what's happening, and you might not be aware. So that's the first thing, you know, and I will never stop having coaches for exactly this reason. And guess what? Neither Tony Robbins. You know, I posted not so long ago a video on Instagram about 1 minute long of Tony saying, you know, I constantly train my mind, constantly train my body, and I cannot do it without coaches. So if you doubt my words, go there on my Instagram, Wahido Marata. Just Wahido Marata, and see that post. You know, it's him. And why? Because they are so powerful. They keep you accountable. So the second thing is to write them down, but to write them down in a very specific way. First of all, is to write down the exact thing that you're telling yourself. So say to yourself, like, I'm not good enough. I cannot do this. I will not be able to do this because of this, and this. And when you write it down, it becomes very, very powerful, because there is some kind of chemical reaction that happens in the brain that makes things more real and more tangible. And so it doesn't become like, oh, it's just a thought, who cares, and let's go to the next thing. So it becomes, you know, much more tangible.
And this is for the negative aspect first, right? Like to get the negative thought down on paper first, or right?
Definitely. So whatever you're telling yourself, you know, usually belief systems are not positive, you know, because if it's positive, it's actually an empowering belief system, you know. It's something that you actually want to do more than less. So I'm talking here about things that are actually kind of sort of creating that negative feeling inside of yourself. And when you say it, then you really analyze it, and then you really say to yourself, how is this impacting my life? How negatively is this impacting my life? And on a scale of 0 to 10, say, this is impacting my life on, say, 8, 9, or 10. And if it's not on a 10, really find out if it's really serving you, so that it goes up to a 10, so that there is really like a negative reinforcement of that negative thought. And then it's basically to usually check the opposite of that in a positive way, and really start thinking, you know, if, you know, like I made a video yesterday, and the video was about, you know, asking yourself, what if? And so to ask yourself, what if instead of this, I would say something else? And really kind of change that negative thought by a positive, empowering thought. And then whenever you catch yourself saying that thing to yourself, go back to your notes, revise them, and really say, what if I would say this? And that becomes repetitive. That becomes a new empowering thought that will change the old negative one. And that's basically how you change negative belief systems, or just limiting belief systems. You know, it's very powerful. It takes practice, but moreover, it takes emotional intelligence. It takes time for you to listen to yourself, to really know what you're telling yourself, even if it's unconscious. Sometimes it's very powerful to just write down, if it's not a conscious thought, the feeling. What are you feeling? And why are you feeling it? So let's change. Let's, you know, like Tony Robbins said, let's change its state. You know, how are you feeling now? Oh, I'm a bit down, and your head goes a bit down, or your shoulders are a bit crunched. Put yourself straight and say that empowering feeling or that empowering communication louder and more powerfully. And it changes.
Yeah, I love it. I love this. And Jonathan said, it's so amazing how much resistance comes up when you tell people to write down exactly what they tell themselves, myself included. So just like that act of writing, I know I used to judge myself when it came to journaling and say, I don't know how to journal. I hate journaling. This sucks. I'm not good at this, blah, blah, blah. And I got into the habit of it, and it got easier, and, it takes time, takes practice. And I think one of the other pitfalls that came up for me is I got frustrated when I would do this exercise and write down a negative thought and then like cross it out and then write the opposite and like do all the work on replacing it with the opposite. And then I would come back to it, 6 months or a year later or however long, and I would have the same thought and like the same negative belief. And I'm like, what the heck, man? I did this already. I remember writing this one down. This is BS, like bullshit. belief system and bullshit, both of them. So, I was just like really frustrated. But then I recognized, dude, it's like repetition. It is so working the muscle. It's so defining a new groove, a new pattern. And I get to be patient with myself in this process because this is the way I know right now. It's the way I have access to. So just do the work and don't complain about it. Don't beat yourself up. Don't shame or guilt or anything like that. But just keep doing the process. Whenever you notice more and more stuff is coming up, or if you feel overly negative, or if you feel stuck, or whatever it might be, go through the process and release some of that negative belief system to replace it with a new one, so you can get back into action and feel better. But it was huge for me to just like learn how to accept that was my process and not judge myself for it coming back up, or for it taking years to get rid of some of these beliefs.
Yeah, and this is why it's so important, for instance, to share them with people, especially people that you trust, like your girlfriend, or be in a mastermind group, either a mastermind with someone that is your colleague. Like I have a lot of my mastermind talks and calls with different individuals and groups, because it keeps you accountable, and really it's like really sharing, and really being open and humble enough to say, look, I'm struggling with this. Can someone help me? I really want to change, but somehow it keeps hammering and keeps coming up, and I don't know how to overcome it. And so I believe it's really, really important, because then it becomes really a process of evolving,
Yeah, 100%. And I love that too, because it's like evolution. It doesn't matter how long it takes, or what kind of different curves and turns. It's like, do you know what your vision is? What is your greatest possible self, your best version of yourself? And how are you going to take a step today to get towards there? It's like one step at a time. That's all we can ask of ourselves, is one step at a time.
Exactly. And another word is patience.
Yeah.
The more I age, the more I it's just like, it's some things just take time, and there's no rush. In the end, it's the moment that matters. All the steps, consciously, unconsciously, mental, emotional, intuition. It's all that matters in the moment. Yeah. If it takes a bit more time, that's how it is. But it's very difficult not to beat ourselves up, but it's just how it is, and it's a great asset, being patient.
Patience is huge, and I love how you said there about like this moment. Really this moment is all we have. And for me, a challenge was falling in love with the process of creation, the process of becoming my greatest possible self, because I was so attached to having the end result rather than loving this moment and the beauty that is this moment and everything that is this moment, whatever size my biceps are, whatever size my bank account is, whatever the status of my love life is, or whatever it might be. It's like, it's so perfect, and I get to take the next step.
Exactly. And it's really, really like step by step, and without patience there is no step, and without having the goal and the vision that patience is part of it, then it's really, really difficult to really envision the life of your dreams. And this is actually what I do a lot with my clients, is to envision their best life, their dream life, actually. And that's what inspired me to create courses like I have a goal-setting course on Udemy that the first 14 hours got almost 1,000 students enrolled. Wow. Because the power of a step-by-step guidance in order to reach our goals, and with patience, getting the little steps that lead to the macro steps, and ultimately lead to your dream realization, is a must. And it really, really helps. Patience.
Beautiful. What else would you say are some of the distinctions of emotional intelligence? What else do we need to know to be successful with our emotions, managing our emotions, and being able to interact with others who are, they're like, I think emotional intelligence helps us get along better in life or succeed better. So tell us more about emotional intelligence and distinctions that we should know.
Yeah. So basically, from what I've learned, there is several ways to actually look at emotions, and there is three main ways, and they all lead to the same, which is consciousness. Okay. And so, the fact that we engage in different sort of emotions. Let's say anger, for instance. I love anger because it's something that everyone can relate to. Yeah. There's actually 3 stages that they say that can make you understand and deal with anger in a more effective way. And these stages are more or less like awareness stages. Yeah. And so the first sort of awareness stage is where you actually get into the emotion and don't even notice. Wow. And so you are angry. And angry, there's 3 forms of communication, basically: the passive, the aggressive, and the assertive. And so, anger is actually a very aggressive kind of communication, which doesn't let you reason and doesn't let you be really assertive and in a position that you are discerning. So it's actually very, very reactive. It's actually part of our reptilian brain that lets us either fight or flight or freeze. Yep. And so, that's basically the first stage of awareness, which is basically no awareness. But then there is another stage, which is basically you go into the emotion, but you catch yourself in that negative emotion, that negative. I say negative because, might sound like a judgment, but basically is, not being able to really communicate in a conscious way, in an assertive way. But you catch yourself. So you are like, okay, able to change in that moment, that kind of rush of adrenaline or cortisol, or even sometimes dopamine, that flushes your brain and really makes you feel like in power and totally ready to fight anyone. So that lowers because you are able to catch yourself, right? So first, you don't know what you're doing. Second, you don't know, but you catch yourself. But thirdly, you are going to engage in an emotion that it's not helping you at all, but you catch yourself before you do it. And so you are able to communicate in a very, very conscious way. So emotional intelligence has to do with self-management, one of the keys, which means that you are actually able, sometimes, and I use this word and many people, don't like the word, but it's sometimes you are able to control yourself, So by being able to control yourself, by being engaged with self-management and self-awareness, it's actually one of the other steps or one of the characteristics or concepts of emotional intelligence. You are able to actually communicate with yourself in a more conscious way, which then leads you to communicate with others in the same conscious way. So this is a little bit about emotional intelligence. I mean, there is much more, but another thing has to do with listening, like I spoke to about. Listening is also one of the most amazing things about emotional intelligence. And again, it's about practicing, it's about perceiving, about understanding, and about dealing with emotions in the most conscious way.
So as far as listening, what makes successful listening, and what is successful listening, what isn't successful listening?
So, imagine that you are trying to communicate to someone in the best way possible so that you achieve an understanding of a situation or a circumstance. One of the disadvantages of not listening is that you are not able to really be discerning and really be focused on being assertive, right? So this leads you to basically fall into, creating the rush of hormones that really affect your brain and really makes you totally foggy in terms of being able to discern. And so listening really means that, and one of the most amazing parts of listening is that you are able to really see what's happening inside your body and not reacting according to what's happening. So, if you see a tiger in the woods, your reptilian brain will trigger this mechanism, the fight or flight mechanism. So in that moment, your body is rushed with so much adrenaline because the fear, which is so vital for the ego to actually tell you, this is a life-threatening situation.
Right.
Let's do one of the three, otherwise we will die. So what happens nowadays is that there are no tigers anymore. And there are many, many situations that still trigger that mechanism, that still flush our bodies, that make us so emotional and so dragged by that energy that is not really part of a strong mindset.
Yeah.
And if I may, we become a bit more like non-rational animals. And so emotional intelligence with listening means that you actually become a bit more conscious. I'm not saying more evolved or anything. You just become a bit more conscious. You start thinking about things in a different way because there is more than the emotions and more than the hormones that actually become your reality. So you can try communicating to your wife or to your girlfriend without listening to her and just go blah, 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 and whatever she speaks, you pretend that you listen, but you don't really listen. And see the results. I mean, it's obvious, right? It's obvious what's going to happen. So listening is really, really part of everything that is happening today in social media, in marketing, in the way that we sell our things or the way that people try to sell their things, it all comes to this.
Yeah, and I know there's cues. There's certain cues that emotional intelligence focuses on, or like in emotional intelligence and in listening and communication in general. I think they say it's physiology is 60%, the tonality is another 30%, and then the words are another 10 or 8% or whatever the ratios are. But I think it's important to know that there's certain cues to look out for. How would you recommend we become more aware of those cues and utilize those to our advantage?
So you mean the cues to listening or to emotional intelligence?
Yeah, it's cues. Yeah, cues that other people give us that we need to be aware of, because a lot of people aren't aware of what means what. When someone raises their eyebrow, what does that mean? Micro expressions, different cues. So I'm curious if you had any guidance on that.
Sure. I mean, that's a huge question for me, really. Basically, there is, I don't know exactly the ratios, but what I know is non-verbal communication and verbal communication. Mm-hmm. And what I know is actually that, not only because of the way that we process in the brain or the percentage of what we can process in the brain makes us conscious of what is happening. That's what becomes verbal. So if Einstein had the awareness of 13% of his brain capacity, and if he says that usual normal people have between 7 and 10, then I would say that becomes what's verbal. Everything else that is non-verbal has to do really, in my opinion, with the way that people look at you. The expressions on their eyes. For me, it's really, really, really how they communicate. The way that they communicate with their hands. It really shows what's happening inside their mind, sort of speaking, and really translates what the communication is about. I know that, every time people look up, it means that they are thinking. Every time every time cannot be the case, but many times when people look down, it means that they are not telling you the truth. That's two things that they are very, very common. But then it's about activating something else inside of you, the listener, which is for me what is more important, more than anything else, which is the intuition and the kind of emotional intelligence that requires for you to actually know those those cues. Because many times, actually, people are, actors. We are all actors, and we are all trying to get our way around things. And like the snake, just we will manage to convince or to convince ourselves.
Yeah.
That's the worst. We convince ourselves of the lies that we tell ourselves, and when we tell them, it becomes so natural. It's like we don't even think about it. We don't judge ourselves because we repeat it so many times over and over again that it becomes our reality, and that's where the BS comes from. So I would really look at activating everything else that allows you, because that allows you to understand those cues, because everyone is different also.
Yeah.
Some people are more extroverted, some people are more introverted. Then how do you actually understand the cues from an introverted person who stays very quiet, doesn't move, stares at you in the right place at the right time, but doesn't give you any cues? So, it really depends on the situation, also the environment. What is the environment? That also counts a lot. And really, sometimes it depends on how the person is feeling. Yeah. So it's really good to even ask people, how are you feeling? How, is this, or even ask, are you expressing this because of this or that? In relationships, it's so important. Are you actually saying what you mean? Do you actually mean what you're saying? And this has to do with the feminine and the masculine. I know that the masculine is much more direct. The feminine is much more like, no, I don't want you to help at all. When they are actually saying, I really want your help.
Right.
So, those cues, how can you get them? By being really emotionally intelligent, or really finding your intuition, but also asking, And if there is really a powerful communication, then, and a truthful one, then perhaps the person will say, look, yes, I'm really saying this, but I mean the opposite.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love this too, because we can reflect on our own about how we're doing in our performance and still be completely oblivious to communicating with other people. And I believe it's so essential to check in with other people. We talked about, are you really saying what you mean, kind of thing, and ask them, how am I showing up? What did you hear out of what I just said, to make sure that the message sent was the message that was delivered,
Totally. Yeah. I mean, that's where communication comes from. It's really asking the right questions, and not being afraid, and really being truthful to yourself. And even if it's in an awkward situation or with an awkward person, sorry, I didn't understand what you said. Or did you understand what I said? Did you understand what I meant? Not what I said, but what I meant. Because it's so important, and it needs to come from a space of openness and communication.
100%. Awesome. Well, dude, Wahido, we've covered a lot of really good stuff. Is there anything else that you felt our audience needed to know to become our greatest possible selves, to do that mindset shift, to really master emotional intelligence? Anything else? And or let's wrap up the conversation that we had with the final points, kind of thing.
For me, asking the what if is one thing that I would like to repeat, because and to really just 1 minute, go into it just for a little bit, because it's something that I started doing for myself, and it really, really totally changed my reality. Not only my professional reality, but my personal reality with myself and with the people that are more close to myself. So, asking what if is really open up all the possibilities of the way that you can dream, the way that you can see your life in a totally different way, which doesn't have to be huge, but can really be like a small shift in consciousness, and really say to yourself, what if I would do this? Could it really happen? Because if you don't ask yourself, you will never get it. And once you start asking those questions, then to really, really ask yourself, what if I would start doing exactly what I love to do? It's like, there is no words really, because when you wake up and you're really, really totally clear that that's what you were born for, or maybe we're born for on that day, because your purpose and your goals might change from one day to the other. I've been in that situation. One in the morning something is clear, in the evening that clarity changed or evolved to something else. But still, if you don't ask those questions, perhaps one of the challenges could be, every morning ask yourself something that totally makes you see things in a different way by asking what if. And like in the morning, perhaps what if today, instead of the clouds and the rain, I could see the sun behind the clouds. And like Einstein said, imagination is more powerful than knowledge. Why did he say that? One of the most amazing, intelligent human beings on earth that ever stepped on earth. So, just close your eyes and imagine the sun behind. Not only imagine, but feel it. The imagination that comes from the kinesthetic part of your body. Like you feel it. It's just something. Very, very interesting.
I love it, man. I love it. Great discussion and great topic. I love the what if. I love the imagination and really utilizing that to focus on our dreams and our goals and have that pull us forward, like the energetically feeling it and experiencing it will pull us forward towards our goals. So, Wahido, I know that there's people in our audience who are excited to be pulled towards their goals, and you have a lot of solutions and ways that they can do that. And when they stay connected with you, that will happen. When they grow with you, when they have a conversation with you, they will be pulled towards their goals and achieve their goals even faster. So how can they do that, and what are the next steps for them to take?
I believe in acceleration. Nowadays, there is so much speed. So I actually offer a 30-minute consultation, which I call the acceleration coaching session. And, it's 30 minutes that we really, I ask you to fill out the form. So I'm really clear about what to tackle in that 30 minutes. And, I really, really want to help people, not only using emotional intelligence, intuition, etc., but goal setting, a step-by-step process that can really get you to where you want to go. And so I also do this with my normal coaching practice where I have several packages depending on your objective or your goal. But I also developed 9 different online courses which I offer on Udemy and other platforms, and that is all on my website. And the last one is really, really interesting because it's about mindset and self-awareness for entrepreneurs that want to basically explode their gains and their reach and their communication with their audience. And so anyone that is like blocked with I'm doing everything but there is no results, that's what it's for. It's to really shift the way that your mindset is geared and create a lot of self-awareness about yourself, about your product, your services, and your audience. And so that's basically what I'm offering.
Cool. And how do people do that again? What's the link, or how do they communicate with you?
Yeah, I mean, you can just go to wahidomarata.com. That's WAHIDOMARATA.com. My handle everywhere on all social media is Wahido Marata. So you can just find me anywhere. And if you go to mindset.wahidomarata.com, then you get to my workshop, my online course, and it's really, really interesting. And if you really, really want to get to this course today, I'm willing to offer you an amazing 40% discount on this course. So, just send me a message, or, perhaps send a message to Chris, and I will give you a code that leads you to a 40% discount. I really, really want to support you. And, I want to exchange energies and exchange ways that we can support each other. So this is my goal.
Amazing, amazing. So you heard it. Go to mindset.wahidomarata.com and search for Wahido Marata for all Instagram handles. He is rocking it out. And dude, we're definitely gonna have to bring you back on, maybe spring or something like that of next year, to talk about more of how you've gotten to build your brand and build these courses and impact these influencers and stuff. Because I think that's another dimension of you that's super awesome. And you're doing amazing in the coaching and just sharing the wisdom of emotional intelligence and in technique. So thank you for what you do, brother. We appreciate you coming on here. I'm so grateful getting to know you, getting connected with you, to grow together, and let's make this year our best year ever, and 2019 even better, dude. Thank you so much for coming on, Wahido.
Thank you. It was a pleasure, Chris. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. We'll see you soon, okay?
See you soon.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.